just a simple machine to carry people or cargo up and down, right? At least, that's how it should be. I'm talking about elevators in regular apartment buildings. Nothing fancy. Just a metal box with doors that goes up and down on cables. But what happened to me was different. So different that even now I can't shake off what I experienced that night. The night I wished I had just taken the stairs to the 8th floor instead. It all started after a long day at work. I was completely drained, barely keeping myself upright as I trudged home. That night was especially cold. It had rained the day before, and now the wind was whipping through the damp streets, blowing the leftover moisture right into your bones. Every so often, a fine mist would spray down from the sky, like someone was lightly misting me with a spray bottle just for the fun of it. All I could think about was getting home, wrapping myself in a warm blanket, and sipping hot tea. I was so tired I didn't even want to exist, let alone think. I usually walked home. The town I live in is a dead end. Public transport stops running early, and cabs are too expensive for me to afford every night. The walk takes about an hour if I cut through courtyards, or an hour and a half if I stick to the main roads. That night, step by step, I felt my energy slowly drain away. Finally, I saw my building, an old 9-story Soviet block of concrete. My little den was on the 8th floor. I've been living there for about a year now, maybe a little more. Alone. My parents sent me from the village to the city to study, but honestly, I was always a bit of a slacker. I knew even back then that a university diploma was more useful as a cutting board for bread and salami than for landing a job. So I dropped out and started working. Not for much money, but it was enough for one person to scrape by. A few minutes later, the sharp buzz of the intercom broke the sleepy silence of the neighborhood, and I entered the building. Even with a decent metal door and a keypad lock, the entrance was always grimy and stank of God knows what. Cigarette butts, beer bottles, everywhere. In summer it wasn't that bad, but when the cold hit, all the local idiots would hang out inside, getting drunk and leaving their trash behind. And the elevator? That's a story in itself. Half the buttons don't work, or they work, but only when they feel like it. The walls are covered in scribbles and filth, the floors usually littered with used condoms and cigarette butts. Not many people live in the building, mostly elderly folks. No one stands up to the scumbags who mess the place up, and no one really bothers to clean it properly either. That's why I usually took the stairs, even though I lived on the 8th floor, just to avoid stepping inside that piss-soaked metal box. But tonight was different. When you're dragging yourself home after a brutal day, barely staying on your feet, of course you're going to take the elevator. No way was I climbing 8 flights of stairs. So that's what I did. I pressed the call button, heard the familiar hum from above, and waited. About a minute later, the doors creaked open. I stepped in carefully, trying not to step on anything disgusting. I pressed the button for the 8th floor, but of course it didn't work the first time, or the second. It took me 5 tries before the thing finally shuddered to life and started moving. I stood there, swaying slightly, my body getting heavier, my eyelids starting to close. But the stench of piss was so strong that not even the scarf over my nose could block it out. It kept me awake whether I liked it or not. Then, suddenly, the elevator started slowing down, and the lights went out. Honestly, I wasn't even that surprised. Power outages here aren't rare. But a few seconds later, the elevator jolted hard and came to a dead stop. That's when I started to get nervous. I mean, sure, the elevator was filthy, but it always worked. I'd been living here for over a year and never once got stuck, nor had I heard of anyone else getting stuck either. I stood there in pitch black, the doors refusing to budge. I pulled my phone out of my pocket. Might as well get some light. Great. 10% battery left. Still, better than nothing. They always say the most important thing in these situations is not to panic. I remembered that much from school. I started mashing the emergency call button, but it was completely dead. I must have pressed it 20 times, maybe more. No response. Now I was genuinely worried. I wasn't sleepy anymore. My brain flipped straight into survival mode. At that point, I still thought, okay, I'm stuck. It happens. Someone will come, get me out of here. But no, that didn't happen. The darkness and the cramped space started messing with my head, and that smell, God, it was nauseating, like a rural outhouse that hadn't been cleaned in years. I tried prying the elevator doors apart with my hands. Using what little strength I had left, I managed to open them just a crack, enough to see that I was stuck between floors. There was no way I could squeeze out, even with my skinny frame. Then I noticed something else weird. Through the gap, I could see that the stairwell was completely dark. No lights anywhere, at least not on this floor.
But wait, hadn't the power gone out? Or hadn't it? I looked down through the gap. You could just barely see the floor below, and it seemed like there was light down there. I was confused. Scratching my head, I squinted harder into the darkness. And I swear to you, I saw something. Something darted across the stairwell, fast, from one corner to the other. The whole situation was getting under my skin. The air felt heavier. I didn't know what else to do, so I yelled, "Hey, somebody, I'm stuck in the elevator. Can anyone hear me? Spending the night trapped in this disgusting box? No thanks. I had work in the morning." My voice echoed through the stairwell. "Hello? Anyone there? Help." Maybe, just maybe, someone was out there in the dark and would hear me. But I was so wrong. Right after I shouted, I heard laughter. At first I figured it was just some punks messing around in the building again. But then it came again, louder. And this time, it didn't sound normal. It was fast, manic, like a lunatic laughing. And I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. I had no idea. All I knew was that the laughter made my skin crawl. I stood there, trying to listen, when suddenly something slammed into the elevator door. I jumped. Then the laughter again. Then another bang. Now I was genuinely terrified, but I still clung to the one thing keeping me together. Don't panic. Maybe someone was trying to help. But why the hell were they laughing like that then? I didn't get it. Stupid me. That thought made me try prying the door open again, and I've regretted it ever since. Maybe they wanted to help, pull me out. Yeah, right. The moment I opened the door, a crack, a hand shot through the gap. At first glance, it looked human, but not quite. It was hard to tell in the dark, but the pale, sickly color stood out even in the gloom. That's when my heart started pounding like a jackhammer. I stared harder and realized that was no human hand. The fingers were long, thin, almost skeletal, and each one ended in a claw nearly half the length of the finger itself. Another hand reached in, groping around inside the elevator, and then I heard the laughter again. Clearer now, right there on the other side of the door. And that's when I understood. It wasn't a person laughing. It sounded like several voices laughing at once, all layered together. I swear I'm not making that up. I'm sure of it. I scrambled into the far corner of the elevator. Then the hands withdrew, slipping back into the darkness. That's when it hit me. Shouting for help was a terrible idea. I clamped my mouth shut. The only sound left was my heart, thudding like a drum in the suffocating silence. But the weird thing was, the elevator doors didn't close. They stayed half open like something was wedged between them. For 5 minutes, nothing. No laughter, no footsteps, just silence. Then someone, or something, tried to open the doors again. But this time, from the outside, I could tell because no hands reached in. Suddenly, a loud bang hit the elevator roof. And at the same time, that awful laughter came again, right in front of the doors. The whole "don't panic" thing, gone. I snapped. I didn't care anymore. I just needed to get out of that fucking box. The walls were closing in on me. The air was heavy. I pushed myself through that narrow gap, desperately trying to squeeze through. Half of me was in the stairwell, the other half still stuck in the elevator. Then panic wrapped itself around me like a thorny blanket. God help me if the power came back and the elevator started moving. But even that wasn't the worst part. What came next was much, much worse. I stayed stuck like that for maybe 3 minutes, struggling in vain to get free. Then I heard footsteps, dragging, heavy, coming up the stairs from below. I froze. I could hear them getting closer. And then I saw it. A silhouette moving slowly toward me in the dark. By then my eyes had adjusted a bit. I could make out shapes. But what climbed those stairs that night, I have no idea how to describe it. It was something awful. It kept coming toward me with heavy, slow footsteps, like it knew I wasn't going anywhere. And it was right. I wasn't going anywhere. I was stuck. God damn it, why the hell did I even crawl into that damn gap? Why? What's going on? What the fuck is that thing? Panic had completely taken over me, and it just kept coming. Unhurried, deliberate. Then, I finally saw it. It looked like a woman, or what used to be one. She was wrapped in torn, filthy white rags, with sparse patches of hair on her scalp. Or maybe she was completely bald. Her limbs were thin, but in some places they bulged grotesquely. Her whole body was covered in blisters and gross. Even in the dark, I could see that clearly. When it got close enough, I knew there was no point trying to escape anymore. It was right in front of me. It hissed something under its breath, breathing so heavily it sounded like it was choking. Then it crouched down, and that's when I wished I'd never been born. Its eyes were rolled back, just blank milky white staring past me. Its face, huge, bloated, covered in sores, and the hands, the same ones that had clawed at the elevator, long bony fingers with claws that started digging into my flesh. I screamed. The pain was unbearable. Blood dripped onto the stairwell floor. Then it started laughing again. That same echoing, hideous laugh. As my scream joined it, our sounds mingling and bouncing off the walls of the stairwell. It left a deep, jagged scratch across my shoulder. Then it went for my neck. I shut my eyes, and my whole life flashed before them. The sharp, searing pain shot through my body, but it was like it knew exactly how to avoid the vital spots. It wanted me alive. I kept screaming, feeling the warm blood running down my neck, helpless to stop it. Then it started yanking out my hair, slowly, deliberately, still laughing that awful broken laugh. I just lay there, realizing I was slipping away from the pain, getting lightheaded. I could feel blood trickling down my face. The only thing I could think to do was pray. I didn't even know any prayers, not Our Father, not anything. But I just whispered to myself, God, help me. Please. What did I do to deserve this? Why me? And then, suddenly, it stood up. That's the last thing I remember. Then, the lights came back on. The stairwell lit up, and the elevator started moving. Up. If it had gone down, it would have cut me clean in half. But somehow, I managed to pull myself back into the elevator, and that's where I passed out. I came to when someone was slapping me across the face. They loaded me onto a stretcher and hauled me into the ambulance. They injected me with something, hooked me up to some IVs, and I passed out again. I'd lost a lot of blood, but that doesn't matter. I spent a couple months in the hospital, patched up more or less. But what does matter is what I found out right after they discharged me. First thing I did was dig up some info on that building, on the people living there. And believe it or not, it's up to you. But I found out something that was just way too much of a coincidence. Turns out there used to be this woman living there, get this, on the 7th floor. The same floor where I got stuck. I'm sure of it because the blood, my blood, was still there when I checked. No one ever cleaned it up. Who would have anyway? South. That woman? She lost her son during childbirth, and it messed her up bad. She joined some cult or sect or whatever. One day, a neighbor told me this. About 10 people showed up at her place one by one. What they were doing inside, no one knows. But by the evening, that neighbor's apartment got flooded. Water was coming from her place. So he ran over, started banging on her door. No answer. He kicked it down. And what he found, she was in the bathtub, boiling water. The whole apartment was filled with steam. She was covered in blisters. Cooked alive. Literally boiled herself. And when they carried her out on a stretcher, guess what? The elevator got stuck. They spent half a day trying to get them out. I moved out after that. Coincidence or not, that's up to you. I've made up my mind. The scars on my shoulder and neck, the bald patches on my head, they remind me of that night. And in my dreams, I still hear that laugh, echoing through the stairwell.